Good morning, guys. This is Jessica. Um, so yesterday I made a video, a crazy video, you might have thought, uh, where I was wearing a mask and I was talking about dialogue. So today I'm going to show you the steps to creating dialogue. Now I am at this really great site called writerswrite.co.za, and this, my friends, is I'm gonna put this in the back office, and I'm gonna put this in the group's files because everyone who joins the group, everyone who comes to the group, I want them to come to this page. Now, I did not write this, but the person who did is amazing. They really changed my life. They changed my writing style. They changed the way I looked at dialogue. They changed everything. So, let's get started, right? So, this is how to write five style dialogue in 5 steps. Literally, 5 steps. Now, I'm going to be showing you what I did and how I adapted it, and then I'm going to reiterate some things and show you exactly what's done. Now, the first thing that I do is I invest in the talking heads. Why? What are talking heads? Talking heads is where you're writing just dialogue. Okay? And if you ever just sat down and invested in the writing process and just start writing dialogue, don't think about anything else. Just write the dialogue. Just write what the people are saying. Imagine it's a script and you're just writing down what they're saying, okay? Don't think about the scene or anything like that. Don't think about the structure. Just think about what's going on in this moment. What are you thinking in this moment? What is these two characters thinking in this moment? And as you write, you will start to get ideas. You will start to see really amazing things about your own characters. Now, and that's who the story's about, right? It's about your character. It, it's it's not about the narrator. It's about the characters. That's why I always start with talking heads. So let's go down and show you exactly the purpose of this talking heads is to, I'm going to highlight these 5 points, is to reveal a character, move the story forward, add add conflict and tension, give information, create white space. What is white space? White space is the space between each word. So when you create a manuscript, most agents they like double spaced. Double space is what they prefer to read in. Because one, it doesn't, and it makes your words flow better. It doesn't look bunchy. And if they wanted to add some 2 cents in between your sentences, they totally could. So that's the whole point. So first, you just write your dialogue. Each line is for someone else talking. So if you notice, like I'll read just a little bit of this. It says you're not serious, are you? Actually, I am. I don't be I don't believe you. You should. Why? And you see is how it's going. You sent this back and forth, but you really don't know who's talking. And so you know who's talking because you're the one writing it, right? So just focus on your dialogue. Focus on your dialogue. I had a very interesting conversation with a friend where she doesn't even write her dialogue first. She outlines and everything inside her head, and that is actually a very cool way to write. But what ends up happening at the end is that you usually have to go back over what you've written, and sometimes you find stuff just don't work. So the point of doing these 5 steps of separating everything is so you can catch the holes before they even happen. You can catch them as they are happening, and it's actually a really cool technique. And so you just follow this whole structure. Just follow it. Just do your talking heads. Just follow it all the way down. Now, what I do is, let me go to Scrivener, which I highly recommend that everyone use. Scrivener is your best friend. This software was developed by writers for writers. So give it a minute. Let it come up. Oi. Alright, here we are. Yeah. Like I am on a trial version now. But it only costs $40. But what's really great about this particular trial is that only the days you use it count against you. So you only use Scrivener maybe once or twice a week. It's gonna last you a really long time. Just a sec. So while that's doing this, you can basically see that this is my pattern here. That my computer is acting completely crazy right now. Hope it didn't freeze. Let me try that again. Ugh! I'm so getting the apple, people, I swear. I'm straight up getting the apple. That's what's gonna happen here. Okay. Alright, let's try this again. Alright, let's try this again. Really? This is what happens when you have a lame old computer. I gotta get a better computer, so bear with me. Just try to get it up again. Alright. Yes, we'll be getting an apple in the near future. Very near future. Ah, here we go. So, right here is what I do. This is a scene that I did. This is my scene too. And this is a scene here. And you notice it's just dialogue. Nothing else. Just dialogue. So, let me show you what it looks like when I look at my scenes. So, coming down here, I'm actually telling you what's going on in the scene. And I prefer the index card view. It really helps me understand what scene comes next. So, this is what makes Scrivener so powerful and so great, because you can actually see your story before you actually write it. Now, I work scene by scene basis. So, what that means is after you go through all the steps of writing your own dialogue, then your finished product is going to be this. This is a complete done scene, and it has all the 5 steps in it, which we are going to go over. And I have my dialogue and everything is perfect, and I even have my action beats. Oh, yeah, action beat, for those of you who are watching this and you do not know, an action beat strictly is you're showing action. Like, here's a great example. Natasha turns, tilting her head. What horse is? And that's kind of error. She asks, frowning a bit. So that right there tells you, I'll highlight this so you can see it. Tells you, one, I use action beats this whole thing. I did not once use a dialogue tag. Why? Because the dialogue tag's purpose is to tell people who's talking. So if you watch, so if you read some books, they be like, um, I didn't do this, she said. Yes, she did, he said. They got this, he said, she said, he said, she said. Now, don't be afraid to use he said, she said. Okay, don't be afraid if you're going to be using just dialogue tags. But action beats can tell you who is talking as well. So you just have to write it right. Now I'm going to show you what action beat and dialogue tag look like in the same sentence. Here's another one, and it says, hands to hips. Hands to hips. Figure a speech, dear, she said. Now, will you please stop staring at your lovely face and get ready? The day awaits. Okay, that right there, we had our action beat and our tag in the same sentence. But was it completely necessary? No. Did I want to put it in there? Yes. Because when you're a dialogue, you want your reader to be aware of who's speaking at all times. You want them to know who is talking to you. Who is talking? You must always know who's talking. So I often sometimes put an action beat with a tag in my things. Now I have been known not to put a tag in it when it's not necessary. Like here is another example. Turning away, letting out a gray sigh. I think I prefer the dark. It's my savior. Okay, so in this conversation, by this point in the scene, we know that this is Natasha talking. So there's no really need for me to say Natasha said or she said. Because there's only 2 people in this conversation. It's either going to be Ruby or it's going to be Natasha. So, with that being said, you don't really need to use a dialogue tag so much. Just let the action beats do the work for you. Okay, just let the action beats do the work for you. And we are going to be getting to that in the steps. But in step 1, all it is dialogue. I like to put my quotation marks in when I write my dialogue. That way, it saves you from having to do it later. It's just an extra step that you can just get out of the way immediately. Okay, now let's go back. Let's go back here. There we go. So we got our dialogue tags out of the way. This is your writer, Mia, and she is great. She actually wrote a really great post. Okay, now we're going to step two. And I got something in my eye. Okay. Okay, now here is step two. Step two is 8 important things to remember when you rewrite your dialogue. Okay, so you're going to be rewriting your dialogue after you write your dialogue. There's a reason for that. Because when we write, we sort of just throw it out. So we need to go back over it. But before you rewrite, we want to read the dialogue out loud. And she actually gives you a step-by-step things to do. You want to, because this is where we are going to be putting in our layering. So if you notice, the little example she gave is now it has a little more bite to it. There's a little more stuff. So I'll give you an example here. His wife fusses around the dressing room. Stacks of clothes lined up on the bed. She packs like she lives, neatly, not a wrinkle in sight. Iron stretched folded. It looks more like origami than clothing. You're not serious, are you? Actually, I am. She turns back to the bed, folding, putting, stretching. Her feet, her feet sunk deep into the carpet. Okay, this is called the learning process. If you notice, I just read you almost something similar to this in my work. Okay, I put my learning in, and this is where you start to build this character's mind. So why did she write this entire package for for this one word, this one sentence he is going to say? Babe, because one, that first couple sentences within your book, within a scene, sets the scene up. You're setting the scene up. Within these sentences, what have we learned before any character starts speaking? Okay, we learned that we are watching a scene where a woman who is obviously a neat freak, so to a point where she has to fold her clothes neatly, just neatly folding them like they have to be perfect. So you can imagine this this woman is a neat freak. I mean, like her house is probably spotless, and she is actually folding them at the bed, and there's not a wrinkle in sight, iron stretched and folded. What's the point of saying all that stuff? It's letting you know that this woman instantly, after reading that, in your mind, you should obviously see that this woman is a neat freak. She is crazy about being neat. So she totally set it up the scene for you. Like, this is who this woman is. She's a neat freak. So as the scene goes on, we are starting to get a clearer picture of A, who's talking, B, what's going on. And what's going on is that this woman we are witnessing the collapse of a relationship where she is going to leave this man, and this man cannot believe this is actually happening. So, 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 um, so the learning process actually adds this on. Like, I'll give you another example here. Okay. Actually, I am. She turns back to the bed, folding, patting, stretching, her feet sunk deep into the carpet. I don't I don't believe you. He leans against the door jamb, his tone carefully crafted carelessness. Okay, that right there is, if you notice, there's not an action. Sorry, there's not a dialogue tag in sight, right? There are no dialogue tags to speak of. Why is that? Because action beats cover that most crucial part of storytelling, is showing people. People rather be shown than told any day of the week. You don't want to tell, and show nothing. I cannot stress that enough. If you want your writing to go to a different level, if you want your book to be taken seriously by agents and publishers, you cannot tell and not show. You have to show. You have to do 89. I say it has to be like 87 or 90% show and 10% tell. And that right there is what is going to really propel your book into the atmosphere. So definitely in this step two, we layer. We are adding structure. We are it's describing this scene, what's going on. Now this also will help you weed out your characters as well. Like what scene is this? Really help you get your mind into the scene. Now going back to my scene here, this scene one is about a girl named Natasha Winters, and in the scene, um, I give just a tiny little backstory sort of to introduce you to the character and to the world to where she grew up, and her nanny, and her special connection with her nanny, and basically something terrible has happened. We and we don't exactly know what it is at this point in the story, but something terrible has happened, and and um her and Ruby, they just really start to have this conversation, and we start to understand that mother-daughter relationship that they have, and that is the whole purpose of the scene, and I flush all of that out through A, my dialogue, B, my layering. So I want you to try step two. Step two is very crucial. So now let's move on to step three, which Mia calls it keeping up appearances. And I'm going to explain to you exactly what that means as soon as it comes out. Da, 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 da. Alright. This keep up appearances is all about the formatting. It says by step three, your dialogue should be done. Your scene should actually be done by the time you leave step two. Now, all it needs now is a few dotted I's and crossed T's. Okay, so that's what this is really about. Now, in here, she talks about quotation marks. Now, I myself, I like to get the quotation marks out of the way. So, as I showed you, I pretty much hopscotch over this step and I get it done immediately. But this, I highly suggest you read this because this actually tells you how to format it, how it looks. This is in quotation marks. He kissed her back, and When you use action beats, there's a simple rule. You do your action, period. And then you have your dialogue tag. Well, whatever in the dialogue tag is what the character is speaking. And you period, quotation mark, you close the quotation mark, and then this is capitalized. So I highly suggest you read this if you do not know how to format. This is very good. This is very good for you to read. You must know how to format. Now we're going to jump to four. Excuse me. All right. Now we're talking about adverbs. Adverbs tell us how something was done. You should rather try to show us how it was done. Exactly. No truer words were spoken. Now, here is an example before using any adverbs. As you see it, don't do it, Alice demanded angrily. Keep your morals away from me, Janet said snidely as she stood over John, tightly tied up in the corner. If you notice, there's a dialogue tag and an action beat in the same sentence. Some people say that's a no-no. Some people say go for it. Like I said before many times, that there is no wrong way to write. No one can tell you how to be a good writer. All they can do is give you some tips on how to write better. So, you want to do it that way, more power to you. Now, let's go on. You've never minded my morals before, Alice retorted sarcastically. Now, some people hate this. They hate for you to use different words in place of the word said. It is as if you're afraid to use it. Don't be afraid to use said. Alice retorted sarcastically. Now, you could say Alice says sarcastically, and you would still got the same effect. So, be wary of using words in your action beats. Some people love it, some people like it, some people hate it, but really the only person you really need to impress is your agent. Unless you're self-publishing, and then you really don't have to impress anybody. So do what you like. So if you notice, throughout this example, there's an action beat in every sentence, and sometimes there's an action beat and a dialogue tag. Sorry, reverse that. There is a dialogue tag in every sentence, and there is a dialogue tag and an action beat in almost every other sentence. Now let's look at this one. How inconvenient for you that I am here then. Please, just drop the gun, Janet, Alice said as seriously as possible. We we both know you are not going to shoot. Okay, now this is just a dialogue tag in this sentence, right? And no action be to speak of. So we do have a very talking head problem here. Okay. Um, this particular sentence, this particular example is really telling us, but it's not really showing us. So that right there is trying to show us a little bit, but it's not really doing a very good job at it. So let's look at the cleaned up version of this. And she has removed all of the adverbs, which would be, so she removed all of the adverbs, and let's look at it now. Don't do it. Alice grabbed Janet's arm. Keep your morals away from me. Janet pulled Janet pulled away and stood in front of him, trussed up and pathetic in the corner. She steadied the she steadied the gun, the weight of it uncomfortable and heavy in her inexperienced hand. You you never minded my morals before, Alice said, folding her arms. Well, I mind them now, Janet said as she leveled a weapon. Now, please forgive the way I read out loud. I suck at reading out loud. I freeze up. I'm actually a really good writer, but somehow reading out loud is not my thing. So, when my book is published, you probably would not hear me reading any book book reading things. I will most likely hire someone to do that for me because I suck at it. Okay, so so if you notice, the cleaned up version of this is better. It actually reads better. It's better. Um, she removed all of the adverbs and added action to show instead of telling. So what that means is she added these action beats right here. Like her eyes narrowed dangerously. Okay, now we are seeing the action of what this person is doing. People don't just stand around and do nothing. People do stuff when they talk, when they're holding a gun, or when they are trying to decide whether or not they are going to kill someone or do something. They do things. So, action beats is very, very important. Now, the adverb tells us how something was done. You should rather try to show us how it was done. When I talk about adverbs, I want you to pay close attention to the words that namely adverbs adverbs of manner instead of using these. I want you to try to use verbs. So let's see if we can find them. Bitterly, dangerously, that's one. Irritably, that's another one. So, let's try to find that one. Angrily. Here it is. So, in the original one, it said, Alice, don't do it. Sorry, the don't do it, and Alice said angrily. But instead, let's write it like this. Don't do it. Alice grabbed Janet's gun. All right. That right there shows one, her, the words don't do it is is what Alice is doing. The next thing she does, she grabs Janet's gun to stop her. So that right there tells you that Alice isn't in a calm state, and she very could be angry, but you notice is that the first example it told us what Alice was doing, and this example is showing us. So you definitely want to always show. Most importantly, show over tell every time. Show versus tell every time. And that, my friends, is actually 5 steps in one. So really, there's probably only about 4 steps or even more, whichever you want to do. But I think this is actually the last post. And yes, it is. So, with that being said, so there's really only 4 steps. So let's figure it out. So when writing that perfect dialogue, first you do your talking heads, then your layering, then your formatting, unless you're like me and you like to do all these things as you're working on your talking heads. So, and then the last step is you reread it and you catch all of your adverbs and get rid of them and try to make sure that you're showing what you're doing. Now, in the learning process, I've been doing this a while, so I can actually do this step in the learning process at the same time. So, what that really means is, let me go back to scene two. Let me go down a little bit. All right. You find one that's a good example for you. Mm-hmm. Still searching, people. Bear with me. Okay, so here is one that's actually good for you. So, as I started writing my learning, I actually was thinking about my formatting as well. So, here I started with an action beat. I did a full stop. I created the quotation marks to which where my dialogue would go. Then I did another full stop because I'm putting in another action beat. And this is also a good example of what I was saying about how um a action beat can tell you who is talking. Because this right here tells you that Ruby swallows the saliva filling up in her mouth. So what that means is, one, that action beat tells you that we are talking about Ruby. And then the dialogue tag that's in the same path as action beat says go on. And so Ruby is talking. She's the one who said go on. And then I add another action beat to show you her mindset as well. She fights her own sadness. Right there, you know what she's doing. She swallowed the saliva filling up in her mouth. That's the action. This is what she's doing. And what she said was, go on. That was the dialogue. And she fights her own sadness. That refers to her state of mind, her emotional feeling in this particular scene. All this is said and done in this very short sentence here. very short, and but it says so much. So that right there is the point I want to get across. Is that when you write your dialogue, let me go back here. When you start your dialogue, this is why I like to start with writing dialogue. Because once you got your dialogue down, everything else just flows. So she says there's 5 steps, and I guess there is. She had the 5th step latched to the 4th step, really, but for me, there's only 4 steps. And for as my method is first, we go here. First, I map, which that's what these are. I map out my chapter, and then, example, I map out my scene. I map out my scene, and then I write the scene. I start with the dialogue, and then I actually go through all the steps with each scene before I move on. So when I move on to the next scene, this is completely done. The only thing that it needs is a few editing for its grammar and spelling. But mainly, it's done. The dialogue's done. The layering's done. The formatting is done. Um, and and dumping the adverbs for the verbs is done. All of it is done, and all it needs is a finishing touch of some spelling, editorial things. And this is my structure. This is the way that I work. So I highly suggest you take a stab at it and see how it can help your writing too. Be because I really want everyone to write better books, better dialogue, and really rock it out. Okay, on my next video, which will probably be tomorrow, I'm going to be talking about publishing and self-publishing versus traditional publishing, and I'm really going to dive into publishing for free, and I'm going to really show you that if you're going to self-publish, there are a few things you need to know and why you really shouldn't ignore them. So, until then, happy writing!